Jake Paul and Mike Tyson now have been suspended from boxing after controversial fight in Texas.
Mike Tyson and Jake Paul just got banned from boxing for life. And honestly, why wouldn't they? They've committed the ultimate sin, scamming the most passionate audience in sports, boxing fans. These fans aren't about to let them pocket millions while delivering what many see as a scripted circus.
I think the whole thing was scripted. The whole thing was just a money grab. And for a lot of us that love Mike.
Sure, this might not hit Tyson too hard. He's retired anyway. But Jake? Oh, he's in deep trouble. His entire career is on the verge of crumbling, and there's not much he can do about it now. This so-called win came with a price he wasn't ready to pay, and now the damage is done. If only Jake had thought about the consequences beforehand.
Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul just got Netflix sued.
But here we are, watching him try to piece together a shattered reputation. It's a classic case of crying over spilled milk, but the jug is empty and there's no one left to care.
Many are upset over the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight, with some people claiming that it was rigged because many people bet a lot of money and they lost a lot of money. Allegedly, there's this script that got leaked showing how the fight was supposed to go down between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul.
All right, let's cut the fluff and get to the real fallout nobody's talking about. Sure, we all know Tyson and Jake Paul's fight was scripted, but the aftermath? Oh, it's uglier than Jake's fake victory grin. Behind the scenes, major sponsors are pulling the plug faster than you can say career suicide. Brands that once plastered Tyson's face on energy drinks and Jake's on overpriced merch are now distancing themselves like it's a PR pandemic.
I think the whole thing was scripted. The whole thing was just a money grab. And for a lot of us that love Mike, and despite what he said in that interview with the girl about the legacy, we love him and his legacy, and we didn't like what we saw last night.
And let's not forget the boxing commissions. They're not just banning these two, they're reworking rules to prevent another disaster like this. Rumor has it that even pay-per-view platforms are reconsidering giving influencers a stage after this mess. Fans? They're rallying for refunds, dragging both Tyson and Jake through the mud on every platform imaginable. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. It's a full-blown career obliteration for Jake, and a giant asterisk on Tyson's legacy.
The Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight.
Interesting.
Script. How so? What do you mean by
It's just
script?
weird. It's just
Like
Mike-
scripted in what way?
no, I don't know. I actually really like Jake Paul. It just seems so. It's odd, bro.
The timing. It's the timing.
I mean,
He
it's
fights
obviously
two-
odd.
No, he fights two no names, beats them both.
If you're wondering how the boxing community took the news, here's a spoiler that it was not taken well. Fans, analysts, and even the governing bodies have erupted into chaos, leaving Tyson and Paul's careers in ashes.
Tyson is averaging more punches than he did in that fight with McBride and in the exhibition against Roy Jones, where he averaged 24 punches around.
Like I said, I don't like the fact that they keep messing with that mouthpiece. That ain't good.
From the moment the match started, the alarm bells rang loud. Tyson, a name synonymous with ruthless power, was throwing punches that wouldn't scare a toddler. Jake Paul, the self-proclaimed new face of boxing, responded by tumbling around the ring like he was auditioning for a slapstick comedy.
Jake Paul and Mike Tyson now have been suspended from boxing after controversial fight in Texas. Now, why, you may ask? Now, I didn't know this, okay?
Fans were quick to notice the exaggerated reactions. Paul hit the canvas after what could only be described as a phantom punch, while Tyson's so-called hits looked more like gentle pats. The whole match reeked of something scripted. Every punch, every stumble, every fake grimace screamed, "This is staged." And it was looking impossible to believe in what they were seeing.
You can't fight like 2 days in a row.
Wasn't the Tyson Jake fight, wasn't that amazing?
Yeah. It's amazing they got paid so much money for that.
For fans who shelled out their hard-earned money on pay-per-view and tickets, this felt like a robbery in broad daylight. The promise of a genuine showdown between a legend and a rising star was reduced to a circus act. The backlash was immediate and unrelenting.
At any point, did you start to take your foot off the gas just a little bit because you noticed he was tiring out?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a bit. You know, I wanted to give the fans a show, but I didn't want to hurt someone that didn't need to be hurt.
Die-hard supporters of Mike Tyson, a man whose career once stood as a pillar of credibility in the boxing world, were especially gutted. Many couldn't believe the same fighter who ruled the heavyweight division with iron fists would stoop to something as ridiculous as a scripted boxing fight. It was really hard to believe for everyone.
I don't know what people expected. You know, Mike's almost 60 years old. He's Mike Tyson, but he's 60 years old. And he knew that Jake Paul couldn't do anything to him. So you knew what you were going to get.
Jake Paul's fan base, already a mix of skeptics and loyalists, wasn't any kinder. His supporters may have forgiven his antics before, but a staged fight? That was the last straw. Social media turned into a battlefield of memes, insults, and calls for refunds.
See, Mike Tyson could have knocked him out there. Jake Paul's chin was wide open.
When boxing officials finally stepped in, their response was as dramatic as the fight itself. A lifetime ban for both Tyson and Paul. That's right, neither of them will ever legally step into a professional boxing ring again. The decision was swift and brutal, as officials labeled the fight a disgrace to the sport.
We saw last night seemed like something that very much tarnished his legacy for a little bit of bread.
In their official statement, the boxing governing bodies made it clear this wasn't just about Tyson and Paul. The scripted fight had tainted the sport's already fragile credibility and jeopardized its reputation on a global scale. They needed to make an example out of these two, and boy, did they succeed.
He wasn't even good at the end. And now he's 58, and he's been living the kind of life he's been living. How's he going to have a chance? I'm putting everything on Paul. I'm laying 180. I think it was 180 he was getting. It was two. I think it went up to minus 220, whatever. But it was minus 180. I'm putting everything on Paul.
For Tyson, this scandal is nothing short of catastrophic. Here was a man whose name carried weight not just in the ring, but in the cultural zeitgeist. He wasn't just a boxer. He was an icon, a brand, and a living legend. Now, his once flawless legacy is riddled with doubt. Fans are questioning whether his career was as authentic as it seemed, or if other matches would have also been staged. Was this just a one-time mistake, or does it point to a pattern of behavior? Whatever the answer, the damage is done.
He gets in the pocket, goes low and gets in, and he did that and had a clear opening on Jake, and Jake went like this, and Mike just didn't hit him, and that's the video I'm seeing everywhere, but I remember in the moment.
Show me that.
And then there's Jake Paul, who has somehow managed to turn controversy into a career. Or at least he did until this staged fight blew up in his face. Paul's rise from YouTube prankster to professional fighter was already met with skepticism, but he kept cashing in on the attention, until now.
Tyson requested the 2-minute rounds, wanting to see more action. He just landed the overhand right, testing the beard of Paul early.
The backlash from this fiasco has left his career in shambles. Sponsors have pulled out. Fans have jumped ship. Even casual viewers who might have tuned in just for the spectacle are turning their backs. For someone like Paul, whose entire business model relies on being in the public eye, this is a career-ending blow.
Last Friday's big ringside fight could be heading to court. A Florida man has filed a $50 million lawsuit against Netflix claiming breach of contract.
If you thought the lifetime ban was bad, wait until you hear about the financial repercussions. Fans aren't just angry, they're suing. Many are demanding refunds for what they claim was false advertising. After all, they paid to see a real fight, not a poorly choreographed performance.
In breaking news, streaming giant Netflix is being issued a class action in relation to the Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight.
Advertisers, too, are circling with their lawyers. Brands that invested millions in the event are furious at the bad publicity and looking to recover their losses. For Tyson, this could mean losing a chunk of his fortune. For Paul, whose wealth is tied to his image, the financial fallout could be devastating.
Dan, I think it's more of just like they agreed to.
It's a show fight.
It's a
this
show
is kind
fight.
of what they do.
Yeah.
It's the same thing when Mayweather
Like wrestling.
fought Logan. It was like obvious But yeah, I mean, listen, Mike Tyson's old as fuck, and I think you're right. They decided because I don't think Mike was ever going to hurt Jake.
The sport itself isn't walking away unscathed. Boxing has always struggled with whispers of corruption and rigged matches, but this scripted fight has taken those suspicions to new heights. If even a legend like Tyson and a high-profile fighter like Paul are involved in staging fights, how can fans trust anything anymore?
Well, X has spoken. The fight was scripted. Everyone is talking about this on X, and the script was actually leaked on X a few days ago.
The boxing governing bodies are now under immense pressure to restore faith in the sport. Stricter rules, increased transparency, and harsher penalties for violations are being proposed. But will it be enough?
And one reason only, and that is the money. He's getting paid so much money to do this. So that tells me he's getting bought. So again, it is sad that someone like Mike Tyson.
At the heart of this disaster are the fans, the lifeblood of the sport. They're the ones who buy the tickets, tune in for the fights, and keep boxing alive. And right now, they're demanding answers.
Paul just got Netflix sued. People got big problem.
The outrage isn't just about the scripted fight itself. It's about what it represents. Fans feel insulted, cheated, and disrespected. And who can blame them? When the integrity of a sport is compromised, the people who invest in it the most are the ones who lose the most.
A 28-year-old kid who, used to be a YouTuber, and he's worked hard to learn boxing. He really has. He's come along. But really, he's still not of that level.
If there's a silver lining to this mess, it's that it serves as a cautionary tale. Tyson and Paul's arrogance, their belief that they could get away with staging a fight, has cost them everything. It's a reminder that no one is bigger than the sport, not even a legend like Tyson or a self-proclaimed disruptor like Paul.
The whole thing was scripted. The whole thing was just a money grab. And for a lot of us that love Mike, and despite what he said in that interview with the girl about the legacy, we love him and his legacy, and we didn't like what we saw last night. What we saw last night seemed like something that very much tarnished his legacy.
The road to recovery won't be easy. The sport's credibility has taken a massive hit, and rebuilding trust will take time. Governing bodies will need to implement stricter measures. Fighters will need to prove their authenticity, and fans will need reassurance that this kind of scandal won't happen again.
Conspiracy theorists argue that Tyson, now 58, took the fight for the $20 million payday and let Paul have an easy victory. After all, Tyson is well past his prime, hadn't fought in years. Some even claim Tyson wasn't attacking at all.
But let's not forget one thing that boxing has survived scandals before. From questionable decisions to outright corruption, the sport has always managed to bounce back. Whether it can do so after this disaster remains to be seen.
Jake should fight somebody
Jake's like
his own
6'1".
size, his own age. Just enough. Who knows how to box?
I want to see him do MMA with Conor McGregor.
As for Tyson and Paul, their futures look bleak. Tyson, once the face of boxing, now faces a tarnished reputation and potential financial ruin. Paul, whose career was already built on shaky foundations, may never recover from the loss of credibility and sponsorships. Both men are now left to pick up the pieces, knowing they have no one to blame but themselves.
The whole thing was scripted. The whole thing was just a money grab. And for a lot of us that love Mike, and despite what he said in that interview with the girl about the legacy, we love him and his legacy, and we didn't like what we saw last night. What we saw last night seemed like something that very much tarnished his legacy.
The lifetime ban of Mike Tyson and Jake Paul is a scandal of epic proportions. A staged boxing fight has not only ended their careers, but also shaken the very foundation of the sport. Fans are furious, officials are scrambling, and the credibility of boxing is hanging by a thread. They want real fight, not scripted.
Everybody who, got in and getting ready for, something magical, something historic, whatever. I just want to say the same thing I say to myself.
Hello, suckers.
Whether this serves as a wake-up call or a death knell for the sport remains to be seen. But one thing's for sure is that Tyson and Paul will go down in history, not as champions, but as cautionary tales of what happens when greed and arrogance replace authenticity.